that I think there is still a gap, and between what the industry wants and what the academia is trying to teach. I think that gap needs to be narrowed, because the academia is primarily spending their energy in training students, all right, primarily, except for this executive development program. Again, the focus is to train them and educate them on MBA degrees. The key focus. I think that bridge needs to, there has to be a bridge, and that requires some effort. So I know that some of the institutions like yours and also IMs have this consulting divisions, right? So I think that consulting division probably needs to interact a little more with the industry. It's become a very specialized field.
Yes.
So you've got to be a specialist.
Yes.
I feel comfortable going to a specialist and getting the job done because he or she understands my language.
Yes.
They understands my requirements.
I have a point on this. While specialists do play a very important role, but we see that participants like having a degree or a kind of certifications from premier schools. So let's say, irrespective, let's say if organization does not support in terms of academia or does not go ahead with institutions, employees come directly to organizations.
Yes.
So that's where we get our major chunk of students, because yes, there are specialist institutes, but employees maybe like a stamp of an IIM or a symbiosis on their CV. So maybe we could look at that perspective as well.
It's happening to some extent. It's happening to some extent. One of the things we're talking about, the retention strategy, some of the organizations do encourage, Max encourages at least 3-4 people to go 1-year program in the executive education. I mean, as you said, you get an accreditation from a good institute, and it perhaps enhance your career moves and so on. It's happening, but it's not happening to the extent it should happen. And the only comment on the other side is, when you're talking about academia, one of the things apart from the special skills that are required, most of the, sorry to say, most of the faculty members do not have practical industrial experience.
Yeah, that was my
so they do not know exactly what, except those who have done some consulting. That is also as a consultant, but they never sat in that seat.
Yes.
Without that, it becomes extremely difficult to address you. They can tell you an MBA student, but they may be difficult to tell, except in a specialized area like behavioral science or something, what is exactly your industry needs.
Yes.
I'll support that in what the example that I was going to give. Last year, we had a talent group of 100 odd people. And we had asked them to attend a program, a specially designed program by ISP, one of your competitors, I guess. This was a 3-module course that looked at leadership, strategy, and channel management. And to Dwarka's point, 2 of the modules went pretty well, leadership and strategy. But when it came to channel management, whether it was the lack of experience or perhaps the position that I am the teacher and you're the student and so on, the guys ripped him apart. And basically the comments were along the lines of, we could teach you much more, given the fact that we have gone to 500,000 points of sales in less than 12 months from scratch, and so on and so forth. So I think that element of relating to the business or having doesn't have to be a direct experience, but understanding and appreciation rather than just a teacher-student type relationship. I think that's pretty important. That's where the consultants have succeeded, to his point. I guess the other thing is, and that's a bit personal to me, the academic institutions need to be strong on research. And they need to be telling people like us the value of research. At least in what I've seen, maybe it's the executive education programs where you try and make things simple for people who don't necessarily have a huge intellectual prowess, or it's the effort to make a generalized and standardized module. But what I miss is the value and the demonstrated addition or the value placed through research, and that I think remains the sole prerogative of the academic institutions. Consultants can't do that. We certainly can't do that. And the rigor seems to be missing in some of the inputs that I have seen across. And I think partly the corporates are to blame, because corporates sometimes think it's too detailed, it's too sort of sitting in an ivory tower and talking about it. But the fact is that research ultimately tries, and successfully so, makes a fairly significant impact. Corporates probably want immediate results, and that's why they don't place a lot of emphasis. You should not listen to that. I think that's where you add value.
Right. I guess most B schools are now moving towards research, and most management schools would be doing that. IIMs, symbiosis, we focus a lot on dissertation projects, and in fact we really encourage corporates to be involved in this. One member of the HR to be involved in the dissertation process, so that's research is one area that we kind of look into. But I guess there are certain shortcuts, primarily because what happens is with work you need to manage your family and your education as well. So research then goes on a back seat. But yeah, we're trying our best on the research and dissertation aspect when training is concerned.
I actually was coming to the point that it's what we have also learned from other forums, that it's ultimately a partnership, right?
It has to be a partnership, and it has to be ongoing.
So on an ongoing basis, I mean, in our scheme of life, the senior HR fraternity, I mean, how much time do we get to go to the colleges and incubate? And do we actively do that? Because technology is so dynamic and your processes are so dynamic that education becomes obsolete every 6 months, I would assume. So the best input would be from industry to academia as to where they need to change. So are we able to do that in a normal scheme of things in life?
To a certain extent, also the corporates are restricted by okay, I gave a talk today, or then 6 months later another talk. That is probably not giving the results that you want. Maybe it has to be more concrete.
I just want to make a point here that even organizations which have a full-fledged academy, we have an Aircel Academy, but it's still a challenge to have a development around certain niche skills for every industry. Now that I think is a new area where academia can participate, and it would have to integrate, as Arun said, all the three: the consulting population, the managers of the organization, and the academia. So one example would be usage and revenue for telecom is a very specific skill, but we are forever challenged to hire people with that experience, but to have people with that experience being developed could be one skill area which could be worked on. So probably the need is for the corporates and the academia to partner to find out such skill gap areas, and then develop something which is not very long term, maybe a little short term, but aids to the development of the people.
Very, very niche, need specific ones is what you're
If I could
yes,
just add to
Manmohan,
it,
sorry, you wanted to say something.
Just a short point I'd like to make. I was talking to a professor of IMCAL, and he was saying, they're going to now go and spend some time into designing the courses for the next year, what needs to be reviewed, checked, and all that, and there will be an off-site entire group of professors and the deans and the directors. So I asked, are you going to involve people from the industry? So he was sort of an afterthought. He said, oh, yes, of course, we're going to invite a few people, and they're going to come and share their views. The point I was trying to make is, are we going to co-create that, how do we co-create the syllabus? Because what is relevant in the industry is not something, the institute is building its curriculum on the past curriculums, and it's going on like that. It's worse in the engineering colleges. They're not even interacting. They're not even inviting people to come and ask in, NIITs what is their curriculum. So what's happening in the industry and what's happening in the institutes are two different things. They're like parallel lines going. Now there's no incentive directly for the people in industry to go and co-create also. They're quite happy, sitting and criticizing, well, it's not matching our needs. So I think it's a question of creating that win-win.
I think
where the benefits come to both the industry and the academia, that we sit together and co-create.
Yes.
How to make this a win-win process, how to make it actually happen. I think that is the challenge.
Yes.
And another short point I wanted to add was...
Beyond that challenge we have to get, what steps probably that could, as a corporate people could take. We have to do, because consistently this is happening. Yeah. We were having this similar discussion on, again, skill development. And this was about a couple of days back. And I think it was a Citrix person who said, as a corporate, I'm ready to volunteer, and I have done it in the past. But are the academia ready to understand? or even capable of understanding. Do you face that? It's anybody who is actually interacted and felt, oh my God, they don't understand what I'm really talking about.
See, in the technology industry, I can relate that if I see a big gap between the US institution and in the India academic institutions. There, most of the research and some of the new technology innovations have been driven by the academic institution. You look at internet, you look at Unix operating system, and many other technologies. Those all came from the academic institutions. While in India, we haven't seen any such. So there is a gap. So there is not so much emphasis, not so much incentive, and might be, the talent is not paid well in the academic, so that's why we try to run towards corporate and not go towards the academic side. That there might be multiple reasons for it. So, but that gap has to be bridged, and I don't know corporates how they can come forward, because we have our own challenges, and we are not able to really find time to collaborate and work together. So the initiative has to be taken by academic, how they want to involve the corporates in terms of taking this forward, because of our challenge. Because if it happens at a junior level, nothing will move forward. It has to be at a very senior level.
So Nari, I'm sure you would like to chip in, the kind of probably efforts that you people have made from your end.
That's right. That's right. We recently, we are in discussion with L&T leadership team. This was last Saturday I was there. And discussing with them about how Symbiosis and L&T could come up with a co-branded program. So I think there is a need to kind of partner for co-branded programs where academics could get in their best parts like research, and certain subjects require the academic drill. For example, a lot of students complain when we have corporates teaching finance and when you have an academician teaching finance and stats. So, there's a huge gap, and students prefer an academician teaching, because it's more structured. So, yes, training is, by academicians. Of course, we need to be up to date. But I think there is a requirement of co-branding, so we can kind of put in our best strategies, best practices, and corporates could put in their best practices.
I think it's a very good idea. It can work wonders, because if you focus on specific transitions, transition from campus to corporate, one area where you can focus. Other is one from a technical to a managerial, the first time manager. That's a big transition. And we invest quite a lot in that training and skill development for a first time manager. That is a transition. From again a junior management to a middle management, that again is a big transition. And then from middle, if he's talking about the business leadership, those leadership development programs, I think those transition points in the corporates, if the focus is there and you're able to come up with very specific curriculum, because there is very specific need of certain competencies, and if you focus there, I think there is takers in the corporate to go for it. But you have to come up with those specific.
Just to build on it, it's not only at the transition points. I just give you, it's also depending on how the market trends are changing globally and internationally. I'll give you 2 or 3 examples very quickly. Sales and distribution organization, even in IIMs, there used to be one paper for many years. Nobody was focusing on it. They were talking on marketing and marketing theories. The reality in FMCG is sales and distribution. They were not even more than one paper. That's why nobody wants to go to sales. Everybody was opting for many other reasons as well. And just to give you an example, today the need of the hour is employee relations. I think this is where the practicing managers, building on your point, EFI, ASSOCHAM, FICCI, NHRD, all work together. I think how to upgrade the skills of employee relations. No offense meant to the academicians. Academicians can only teach the concepts. They have not really, most of them have not faced. This is where the collaboration between a practicing manager and an academician working together on employee relations, we have offered that. So it's on the cards. Let us see how it works out.
In fact, I wanted to highlight a success story where we worked well with Academia. So this is more in the R&D sector, and I have a different opinion from what was just said. As we all rightly said, that it's very important to get the commitment from top management. So what we have in Schneider is that we have top leaders who are sponsors of campus. So each of the institutes that we have, so we have top leaders who are actually sponsoring, and they need to take care of the entire relationship management of a particular campus. It works well because we are able to influence the course curriculum. We've also gone a step ahead and also helped them to build up their laboratories, on the basis of what we require. Guest lectures are frequent, so it's not just one-time effort where you're just going once, but it's a regular interaction. So we are very strong with certain institutes, and especially it works very well for us, and we've tried this in the R&D field. So I would say this has worked well, and it's a success for us. So relationship between Schneider and the campuses that we have, we are sponsoring. So I would like to, different opinion on that front.
Okay. That's, See, the other thing is
it's very important that there's collaboration. So as I said, what works well is because we're able to show value proposition both ways. So they're able to show value proposition to us. We are able to show, and then there's collaboration. So it's not just the campus, but it's also the top leaders. So they see a value, because what happens is that otherwise in the R&D sector, the time that it takes for an employee to actually add value in the organization is pretty late, because the expectations are different. So this cuts the time cycle for us. So it works well. So, business is able to see the value. So it works well for both.
Okay, excellent. Training the faculty, that should be really the key, right? So, what is the corporate doing already? People from the industry already?
More than training the faculty, having corporates as faculty.
All corporates. Okay, ideally.
See, I think that's a great point. I think that was the point.
I just want to step in for a minute. Corporates, they come for a few months, right?
Well,
it has to be an ongoing thing. See, that's what I'm trying to emphasize here.
It is, and that's what I was emphasizing.
Yes, you were saying.
See, I think that was the point Dwarka was also making, that we need to have faculty which has worked in the industry for teaching business. If you have practiced, it definitely helps in connecting with the business.
And not a consultant alone, because as you said, it's very limited.
You also need people, organization behavior. You don't need, they may not necessarily be practitioners. So there are certain subjects, so you need a combination. But I guess there are some fundamental issues here. Now the management education, as far as I know, and Dwarka can tell us more, has come from the US, am I right? The current modern management education. But if you look at the MBA curriculum in India and the MBA curriculum in the US, there's a huge gap. I don't know what has changed. And the course there is different from the course here. Over there, you take people after 8 years, 10 years, 15 years, and then they do MBA. They're practicing managers who take a break and they do MBA. That's highly assignment based. So our courses are, we take freshers, we can take graduates, and 60–70% are graduates. The number is reducing, but still we take graduates. And so therefore it is, you do graduation, and in the graduation you've been it's a memory test at the end of the day. So the kids continue with the same mindset. And if you score well, because you've written good exams, you score well. So I think some basic work needs to be done now in this space. And so therefore it has become an obsession now. Somebody said MBA has become an obsession. The truth is today, and it's very, very interesting. Now I've got 300 salesmen who go and sell Horlicks. Out of 300 salesmen, 250 salesmen are MBAs. That's true. And because there are